Welcome to Breaking Financial Chains, where we combine practical money guidance with emotional healing to help you break free from financial limitations. I'm Tanya Riverson, your financial wingwoman. So today we're going to talk about creating your North Star, which is around visioning a life that you want to wake up to every single day. General themes today are future you thinking, instead of continually being stuck in where you might be right now. Goal setting, stroke imaginative goal setting, maybe talking about or thinking about some of those big, hairy, audacious, scary goals that you don't talk about out loud, or maybe you just write in a journal and shut really quickly and push to one side. And also the psychology of vision and what that actually does within our brain, which actually helps us. And so the perfect timing is good, and I want the intention to be to take away the pressure of that whole new me, new year, new me expectation. This is not about that at all. This is an alternative for that. This isn't about pressure. It's about possibility. So essentially, this is about hope meeting exhaustion, or maybe that's where we are right now. But we're wanting to move away from that, and perhaps in the new year we can start to consciously and intentionally move away from that, in all things to do with our life, but especially to do with our finances. And also, let's just acknowledge the whole limbo period that is between Christmas and New Year, where nobody's kind of sure what day it is. Nobody's sure what's coming up, where we're going, what we're doing, who's coming over. We're full of hope, but we're tired and we're really ready for change. But nothing changes if nothing changes. So it's important that we look to take steps to do things differently if we want things to be different. So first of all, what is a North Star? I first started talking about a North Star online, and I also talk about it in my book that I released in 2022 called Your Financial Flight Plan. This isn't it's nothing to do with astrology at all. It's nothing to do with gazing out into the night sky. It's to do with what your guiding star is, your whole why, your whole reason, your whole purpose, your whole this is what I'm doing it for North Star. And it's really, really important that you have one of those, because we're all going to have those days, stroke weeks, stroke months, where things feel really hard, things are a little bit of a slog, especially when we're looking to intentionally change our habits, and we're going to bump up against a little bit of resistance every now and then. And that might be resistance in yourself, it might be resistance from those close to you, there might be a bit of resistance from people who don't want you to change, people who quite like you as you are, thank you very much, because it's comfortable for them. So when we have the North Star and we're clear on what that is, we know that we can work towards that and be ready for those roadblocks, for those days when we just think, do you know what, this is just too hard, I can't be bothered, let's just go back to doing things the way we've always done. But we need reminding that there was a reason we intended and wanted to do this differently in the first place. So a guiding vision, it's not about a goal, it's not about I want to feel happy, I want to have enough money. It's about a direction. We do need to get a little bit more specific than enough or more, but we can come on to that. Essentially, our guiding vision, which makes sure that we're moving from A to B, and we're not just going around in circles in point A. There's absolutely no point as well chasing the perfect sunrise if we're running west, if we're running in the complete wrong direction. The sunrise is in the east. If we want to see the perfect sunrise, we need to make sure we're looking at our compass and we're looking in the actual right direction. We can't do that if we don't do a little bit of planning. And the little bit of planning might be looking at a compass or looking it up online, or it might be a little bit more involved than that, dependent upon what your vision looks like. So these visions help to keep us grounded when life gets messy. They also help you to say yes to certain things with absolute knowledge and intention that it is moving you closer to where you want to be, rather than feeling some pressure to say yes because of who's asking, or because you feel like you should, or you need to be doing something. What is it that you want? What is it that you're moving towards? Not only does it help you say yes with intention, it helps you to say a very clear no, that's not a part of my plans, thanks very much for thinking of me, but with absolute clarity that that isn't the right thing for you. So instead of deferring to someone else or relying on what someone else's opinion is, when we have these visions and these North Stars for ourselves, we can say, no, thank you, you go ahead. I'll stay right here, or maybe I'll join you next time, or whatever it is that you want to be able to say to people. And it's especially important, I feel, for women that have been living in reaction mode for too long. Sometimes saying yes to please everybody else, particularly at this time of year, can become more of a habit than what we're comfortable with. And when we actually dig under the skin of maybe why we're feeling a little bit unfulfilled, or why we aren't reaching or attaining those goals that we set for ourselves, it's because we're trying to keep everybody happy, and we're trying to be a little bit of a people pleaser and balance everything. And sometimes it's okay to put ourselves front and centre. So if you need this, this is your permission piece to spend a little bit of time and think about what you need. Now, from the psychology perspective, visualization can be so incredibly powerful because our brains don't distinguish between imagined and real experiences, which makes it perfect for goal setting. It's like those dreams that you have where everything is so vivid in the moment until you wake up and you realize that it was all just a dream. Your brain will still remember what it sees because it's something that it sees on the TV screen, or it's something that it's seen in a dream, or it's something that you visualize for long enough for it to be real from a vision, from a photographic perspective almost. And when we continue to work on visualizations in that way, it helps to rewire our beliefs. And then we also have, sort of in a complementary way, an activation of motivation centers in the brain at the same time. So part of what we want to build into those visualizations isn't just, I want to have my new business up and running by this time next year, or I want to have a consistent second income by this time next year. The visualization part to help our brain get on board and start to spot those opportunities and those things that could help us move towards that vision is by not just thinking about what something looks like, sort of literally looking out of our eyes from a vision point of view, but how are we going to feel? What is it going to smell like? What are we going to hear when we're doing that work or we're in that place? It's about using all of our senses so that our brain can really get on board with, this is what I'm looking out for. It's that whole reticular activation system as well. It's recognizing those cues that we're essentially pinpointing and saying, this is what I want to feel like. This is what I want to be listening out for. This is how things need to sound. This is what I want to be able to smell, if that's an appropriate thing to do. Because our brain will start to highlight them for us, and it's going to find them for us. Future self-thinking activates hope and agency. Ultimately, at the end of the day, this is about choice. It links to the kind of values that we have as a person. And if it's super important that those visions include your family, well, then why not make it a family thing? Maybe between now and when everybody's back to school or back to work properly, you could spend an hour just having a fun conversation around, complete pie in the sky. What do you think we'd like to be doing next Christmas? Should we go on holiday? Should we stay at home? What is it that's important to you and your family, your loved ones, your best friends, whoever that you have around you in your circle that you want to be spending time with? Get them on board as well, because their input and their vision and what it brings up for them in terms of their senses at the same time can all pile in and create this vision that you're going to be walking towards. So the more that you imagine something, the more that you can visualize something, hear something, smell something, the more you think about it, the more you journal about it, the more your brain is going to help build a pathway towards it. Sounds dead simple, because it is really simple. The reason that we don't do it is because we think about it too much and go, well, that can't be right, that can't be real, so we disregard it. And also we get a little bit overloaded. We've got too many other things that are vying for our attention, and we always put ourselves at the bottom of the list and the priorities that need to happen at this time of year. And actually my argument is, listen, we need to be looking out for ourselves. We need to be carving out a little bit of time. Maybe that means setting your alarm 15 minutes earlier than everybody else, or earlier than usual, to give you that little bit of extra time to work on something that can literally be absolutely life-changing for you. 10, 15 minutes at a time, one step at a time, because that adds up over a year to an awful lot of extra minutes that you're then working on that future vision. This is really different from a typical New Year's resolution. You know, they're often quite rigid, they're often quite guilt-fueled or reactive, or maybe you've tried to get on a favourite outfit and it doesn't fit anymore, or maybe you like spending time with certain people but their priorities have changed and we're wanting to lose weight, make more money, get fitter. They're too rigid, they get in the way of how we're actually going to be able to do those things. A North Star is flexible, a North Star is emotional, and because it's based on our values, because when we're actually sitting and thinking about these things that we want to be working towards, they're true to us. They're not what somebody else tells us we should do. You know, if that favourite outfit doesn't fit you, buy yourself a new one, get yourself on Vinted or wherever it is, or go and check out the charity shops if the cost is an issue. You know, those are all things that can be changed. What is it that's important to you? Because ultimately this isn't about fixing yourself. It's about reconnecting with what lights you up. What is it that makes you happy? What is it that you can really get behind and are happy to spend those extra 10, 15 minutes at a time working towards something that is just for you, whether that's selfish or self-full, however you choose to think about it. We need to be able to get on board with the reason why it's really important to do it. So how do we create our personal North Star? Well, we start with imagination, not logistics. It's not so much about how we're going to do it at this stage, because that definitely comes later. Because with a plan, we do need to take steps. So if something on your vision board is to be fitter, for example, well, we need to think about how we're going to do that. And we can't just sit and think about getting fitter. We need to go and do the things that help to make us fitter. And it's the same for any of the other bigger goals that we might have. It might be to build a financial savings pot. It might be to build a fuck off fund. It might be to build something to be able to take the holidays that you want, or whatever it might be. So some prompts that you could think about. I love to do this when I'm journaling. I've spoke about journaling quite a lot in these podcast episodes. I find it an incredibly valuable and powerful tool, because I like that sometimes if I'm trying to speak out loud or I'm trying to think, my brain doesn't always connect. If I've got things like people pleasing that get in my way, which is something that I do struggle with, but I find if I put a pen in my hand and I have my journal to the side of me and I just start to write, things come out that I might not necessarily make that connection with. So a journal prompt or a thought prompt or just an intention to allow those thoughts to wash over you while you go for a walk or take the dog out or whatever could be, what would a day in my dream life look like? You know, and not just, well, I would do nothing. I would have the choice to not work. That would be my dream day. Well, okay, but what does not working feel like? What does it look like? What can you smell? What's the weather like? Who is with you? What can you hear? Are the neighbours around? Are the neighbours not around? Is someone outside mowing the lawn? Or have you got absolute peace and tranquility? Can you hear water? You know, what is it that you hear that makes you think of, oh my goodness, that would just be perfect to hear the waves lapping on a beach, or to smell fresh bread baking in the oven, or a Sunday roast in the oven, or the slow cooker's on and you're making a beef stew, or whatever it might be. We're going to add as many layers to those imagination points as physically possible. What do I want to feel like when I wake up? Might be another prompt idea. So when you wake up in the morning, are you happy to be woken by an alarm? Do you like to be left to wake up naturally? Do you want to be thinking about the leisurely day that you've got in front of you, or are you arranging to meet friends and family? Are you having a day completely blissfully by yourself? Is it an expansive, relaxing day? Is it an energetic day where you're going to get lots of things done? It's also really important to think about what you don't want that day to feel like at this stage. So when we're visioning or picturing something that we want to work on in the future, it's okay to think, well, I don't want to wake up feeling the crushing weight of a full inbox, for example, and dealing with emails, or dealing with customers or clients, or dealing with family problems. It's okay to think about both of those things, because we can filter then what our vision is going to look like. Another prompt might be, what am I craving more of? You know, if using journaling as a tool on a regular basis can really help you to notice when you're feeling as though your cup is really full and you're really happy. You can be busy, you can be tired, but if that comes from doing the things that you enjoy, then that's perfect. If you're tired because you're drained and you're stressed and you've got a tension headache and you've been grinding your teeth all afternoon to stop you from saying something that you don't feel you could take back, if you're dealing with certain people, that could be something in the I want less of that pile. Because once we start to think about those clients that we don't want to work with, or those services that we don't want to provide anymore, then that can become part of that longer term vision. That can become part of the steps that we start to take. Because if I'm not working with client XYZ, but I want to work with client ABC, what sorts of things can I start to put in place to shift, moving from XYZ to A, B and C? It's all about that direction. So the North Star really helps us to be an absolute pie in the sky. If I didn't have to worry about money, or I didn't have to worry about time, or I didn't have to worry about pleasing anybody else, what would I be looking at when I look up to that North Star with nothing else getting in the way? Why not have some fun with it and completely leave everything else behind you? Run a bath, put an eye mask on, think about what that might look like for you, and write about the sensory side of things. So when you're writing about it, write down what it smells like, what you can see, what you can hear, how it feels, how you feel, what sort of mood and energy are you carrying. And I think the most important thing is to let it be yours, not your mum's, not your coach's, not your husband's or your kids, or what Instagram says it should look like. What really speaks to you and your values and your goals and what you need. Once we've started to get a feel for what that might look like, without any thought for, but that's impossible, that would never happen to someone like me, let's not kill it just yet. We then want to think about the actions. We then want to think about the little bit more about the practical side of things. And it might be that there's 12 things you could do and you pick one action for every month of the year next year. We're not overloading ourselves. We're not making this absolutely impossible and something that we ditch, much like most traditional New Year's resolutions. This is about a vision for future you. And it's not something that we're going to set a time limit on either. This isn't something that we have to necessarily do by next Christmas. This is future you when you say that future is. But because we can start to think about what we know is now is important to us, and because we can feel how it would be to actually be in that position or to be that person, then we can start to make a plan for it. Then we can start to think about those 1 to 2 aligned steps we're going to take just in January. We're not going to think any further ahead. We're going to think about the baby steps And that might be, I'm going to save some money. I'm going to review my bank statements and I'm going to find some things that I can cancel paying for that we're not making use of that I can save instead. This isn't about finding more or adding to our to-do list. It's about changing what's already happening. Something that we're already putting effort in but isn't getting us closer to that North Star. We're going to change that behaviour. We're going to change those actions because it's going to take us in a different direction. And that's it. And then maybe at the end of January, we start to think about whether it worked well. Did I actually start to get closer to that goal? Or what got in the way of helping me move more in that direction? What needs to be tweaked? What needs to change? So to make that possible, we need to keep this vision close to hand. We need to keep it visible. Whether that's a journal that you keep on your desk or by the bed, whether that's a physical vision board or a notice board that you can start to pin things to, a whiteboard that you can draw all over, post-it notes on your monitor in the office or stick it on the kettle so that you see it every morning, whatever it might be, a note to yourself in the bathroom mirror. We're going to remind ourselves that this is something that is really important for you, and there was a reason we started on this thought process at the beginning of the year. Now, there is likely to be times when we're going to really struggle to visualise or remember what we thought about at the beginning of the year, which is completely and totally normal. Things are going to happen, things get busy, things get stressful, things happen, trauma, burnout. And if we're finding ourselves in constant survival mode, it can blur that imagination. So that's where making things as easy to access and using as many of our senses can really, really help. If we like meditation, or if you can find some very simple Hertz music on Spotify or Insight Timer or your app of choice, that you can just close your eyes and take yourself back to just thinking about one of those things that you wrote about, whether that's a sound or a smell or a feeling, just to help jog your memory into remembering what it was that you were visualizing in the first place. What we want to do is give yourself easy access to something that you can pick back up and put back down. And if you're finding it really hard to stay positive about it, start with what you don't want. Reverse engineer from there. Start with what you don't want. Remember what it is that you don't want. Remember the things that you're finding yourself duplicating that you want to change. And also be gentle with yourself. If this is something that you've tried to do in the past, you are already going to have a script in your brain saying to you, this never works for you. You've been writing New Year's resolutions since you were a child and you never stick to them. Well, maybe this is going to be the year that you can change that, because this isn't the same old New Year's resolution. This is a vision for future you. This is your North Star. This is why we're doing it. This is what we're working and walking towards. The vision doesn't have to be crystal clear. It just has to matter. It just needs to be something that's important to you. And share, don't share, write about it, make it public or not. It's completely up to you, because it's your vision and your values. But start. Just take a little bit of time. Even if it's the length of time it takes to boil the kettle. We want something that's just going to start a spark that we can then start to add a little bit of kindling to over time. So this doesn't need to be War and Peace. This doesn't have to be all England. The important thing to take away from this episode is that we don't need a full 12-step plan. We don't need to have a whole plan for the rest of the year. We want to be able to break it down and make a plan, but the goal is just to start. You just need a direction, because that plan can change, right? You need permission to believe in your future self, and that what you believe and future you want is important and worthy of being included in all of these plans that you're constantly making, but you never get round to yourself. Because your North Star isn't out there, it's actually inside you, and it's just waiting for a voice. So make this year your year. Thank you so much for listening. I'll see you on the next episode.
Thank you for joining me today on Breaking Financial Chains. Remember, you have the power to transform your relationship with money one step at a time. If this episode helped you, please subscribe and leave a review to help others find their path to financial freedom. I'm Tanya, your financial wing woman, and I'll see you next week.